How's it going, folks? Nick here with the Untitled Permaculture vlog. I got Otto, of course. He's always around. And do a quick little vlog this morning because I got to finish up and get ready for packing, but I did want to get out here one more time before I left and show you guys what's been going on. So let's real quick just take a look at the chickens before I get started in here. We have some workwears helping us out right now who are staying in the house that we used to live in here. Just yesterday, they did a whole bunch of cleaning up and weeding. And check this out, look at all this beautiful mulch. So much bedding in here now for the chickens, which is perfect right before I leave. So yeah, these guys are good. Looks like they need some food. I'll get that for them in just a minute. All right, there we go. Just like that, chickens are taken care of. All right, so real quick today, what I'm gonna be talking about is essentially how I manage my permanent raised no-till beds here in my backyard. So I'm using permanent raised beds because I'm here in the tropics. I want to have a system that doesn't take too much maintenance and that can have interspersed throughout all of these trees. So you can see here I have all these trees. I have papayas coming on right here, and I want these papayas throughout so they can give me a product. I'm also growing lots of avocado back here, a bunch of other trees as well. But I want to have garden spaces in between there, and I don't have that much space. So what I'm trying to do is stack all these functions, have permanent raised beds as part of my tree systems back here. So we'll look at a couple of them. I've shown these so much throughout my vlog, but just to make sure everyone can kind of see what's going on. So this is right now a newly prepped and planted bed here. You can see there's a whole bunch of little baby arugula coming up. They're just starting now. I also have a whole bunch of perennial bunching onion in here I just seeded. I somehow don't think it's going to take because it's never taken before, so it might just be bad seed or we don't have the right conditions for it. And then there's also a row of carrot in there to try to get a little bit of a carrot crop. So doing lots of just basic crops that don't need too much attention. Carrots should need a little more attention, but usually around 3 weeks is when you should, go through and thin and all that kind of stuff, 2-3 weeks. So I'll be back by then. So that should work out just fine. So what I do here is it's basically 3 major steps to reset one of these beds anytime I'm going to kind of go through, get it growing again. Because basically it's been about a month and a half back here where I haven't really done too much. So, and that's what's nice about these systems is you can quickly reset and get them back and going again. So the first thing you do is remove any of the weedy growth. If it's an annual that's already seeded, or if it's a previous crop that I know is an annual and it's not going to kind of keep growing, I'll just cut that right at the ground level. And then that leaves all the roots in the ground to kind of decompose and create kind of cool compost corridors through the soil. So if it is something I can just cut back, I will. All of that, all those scraps and everything, all the weedy growth and everything, that goes right into the chickens. Everything goes right into the chickens here. So basically I get to feed the chickens based every time I clean up the garden bed. So that's a good thing. Okay, second step is to basically aerate the bed. So what I use is a garden fork. That's this tool right here. It's basically just a hard tined fork right here. You can also use a broad fork if you have bigger beds. Just with me and my smaller beds, a garden fork works just fine. You want to aerate as deep as you can get into the soil. So what I do is usually step on the fork, try to get as far down. I just keep pushing it through any sort of compaction layer I can feel. You can feel them pretty easily once you start doing it more. You start to get used to, ooh, that's a little compacted. I don't really want that in my garden. So you get used to it really quick once you start doing this more. So push it down, and then once you have the fork all the way in the ground, you basically pull down on the handle and lift the soil. So it's not like I'm gonna turn the soil or anything like that. It's literally gonna go straight in, and it's gonna lift until I see the soil cracking. Once I see the soil cracking, I know that there's enough air getting in there, and then I just released from, if I'm pulling it down, I just pull it right back up, and then I move on to the next spot. So all I'm trying to do here is release any compaction that's further down in the soil and allow air to get in there. After I've done that step, I usually then apply compost. And then after the compost, you seed, mulch, and all that kind of stuff. So, but the other thing you can do is actually put the compost first and then do the broad forking. I'll do this often if it's a more permanent, if it's like a longer term bed, it's been there for a while, where I know it's not too compact and everything, because what that does is when you do lift the soil with the compost on top, in those cracks that you make when you lift it up, a little crack makes, some of that compost can fall down into that crack and get those kind of beneficial microbes from the compost further down, deeper into the soil. And that's just going to encourage more aeration of the soil long term as the microbes take over and start to help manage all that for you. So that's another option. You don't need to do necessarily in order. The key is you want to, or what I do is clear the bed, aerate the bed, add compost. After I add compost, then I'll start, I usually just direct seed right into the compost, honestly. That always works for me. You don't need a thick layer of compost, it's just a thin layer of compost. What I did this past time, I had a lot of compost and my beds had been not really taken care of for quite some time. So I actually did add quite a bit of a layer of compost to each of my beds just to basically fill them up to where they originally were. You can tell when the soil degrades pretty easily because, or not degrades, but all the nutrient in the soil goes up into the plant growth, like into this tree. And you actually see the soil level decreases in the beds. It's kind of cool with permanent raised beds. You can actually watch this over the long term. So yeah, for these upper beds here, I got these seeded. And you can actually, I already showed you earlier, but you can see there's a whole strip of arugula already coming up here. That's pretty cool to see. Down this bed right here, I actually have these four flags right here are actually ginger starts. We actually had some ginger that started to kind of show some green on it. And I figured, well, let's see if I can get that to grow here. I'd love to have some ginger growing. You can actually see, I wonder if I can get you zoomed in enough to see that. To see right there, that right there is a little baby ginger, just starting. There'll be another one, oh, there's one right there, that little green start. You'll notice here I'm using a scatter mulch, and that's because I'm direct seeding. So usually what I'd be doing is a really deep mulch where you can't really see the soil. But in this case, whenever I'm gonna direct seed into something, I'm always gonna scatter mulch. So what that means basically is that you take some mulch and you lay it out so that you can see about 50% of the soil surface, and the other 50% is covered up and kept protected. So that's what I do anytime I'm scatter mulching. And then if I'm gonna do that and I'm not gonna be here, I just make sure that I seed in a very high quantity, something like 4 times the recommended rate. If you look at the seed packet, it says, you know, this many seeds per inch or something. I should do 4 times that amount. Something I learned from Jeff Lawton, just because that means I'm gonna have a really dense cover. Now, that doesn't work great for things like carrots, right? Because you're gonna have to go through and thin those carrots if you want any sort of sized carrots. But for greens or anything like that, they're perfectly fine with being really close together. Perfectly fine to add plenty of seed. If it's a cover crop especially, no problem at all to add extra seed. The upper beds already were clear of weeds, so I had to clean this bed and this bed. And I did that, composted and direct seeded and mulched. I had to gather the mulch from next door. Just across the fence there, I just gathered cane grass mulch from right there. And all that only took me maybe like 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So that's a pretty minimal investment for something where I might actually have a crop in like 3 to 6 weeks time, and just have food coming in without me having to do too much work, honestly. Once the beds are established, it's every time I do this, it gets easier and easier. The soil seems better and better, less compaction layers every time I do it. And it's really nice just to have these permanent beds. I don't have to think about, well, where am I gonna place my bed? It's just there waiting for me to go. You can use pretty much anything to make these beds. Here I use some old 4x4. You can see here's the top edge, the bottom edge. I used 2 or 3 of them stacked up there. That was like way back when I just started the first time. That was one of the first beds that went in. This up here was the first bed, and I still haven't actually created a long-term solution for the lower part. What I just keep using is banana or plantain trunks, as you can see here. So every time I redo this bed, I end up needing to harvest a banana or plantain sometime around then. And what I do is I just take the stem, I cut it right in half, which you can see in my last vlog. I went into that detail. I'll try to leave that linked above. Harvesting and managing plantains. You can see the whole process for my harvesting and managing plantains that I do here in my backyard in that video. But here, I basically use the trunks down here. I just lay them straight across with the flat side down, and there's also one on this side here just to help keep that side in. And then I just, behind that, filled it up with compost. And that was pretty much my bed. Up there, I just have a piece of, I think it's like a 2x6 piece, so I just buried into the ground there to help me hold up. You can use whatever you got, guys. You don't need any fancy beds or concrete or wood, or you can do logs. If you have logs in the backyard, that works great. I use, you can see here, I have another bed that I did. Originally, I was just using these coconuts anytime we harvest coconuts, I would just keep everything and just start stacking them up. That helped establish a little bit of height. And then I just added here 2 of the, again, the plantain trunks. I stacked those on top of each other just to help hold this little area in to have a nice little bed here. I actually didn't really plant anything here. I did transplant this, this pepper. It was further back in this bed here and it wasn't doing so hot. So I just figured, I'll just transplant it, see if it works better over there. Up here, you can see the pepper. The pepper here is ají dulce. It's kind of a local variety of pepper, sweet pepper, small but really good. And this thing is not produced because it's been pretty much in way too much shade. So I just opened up, I actually pruned off a branch or 2 of this avocado right here. Try to open up a little bit of light and of course clean up all around that ají dulce. But this little area is actually doing really well. I'm really happy with it. You can see here the dragon fruit, this cactus, it's a vining cactus. It's starting to go up, so hopefully that'll get me something soon. And let's look down here in this bed. What I did is actually a big sweet potato bed. So I had a lot of compost here. I'm really trying to build this bed up so I can have like a big root crop bed in here. And so far it seems to be working just fine. So when I cleaned this bed, I actually already had sweet potato growing in here, and that's all the sweet potato I had to use to kind of get everything going. So what I did was, as I was building this, I weeded around the sweet potato, but kept the sweet potato in place. And then anytime I had like a long piece or anything, I just pull that out so I can take a little bit of cuttings of it, and ended up with kind of sweet potato spaced throughout. And what I do with sweet potatoes when I'm going to plant them in, this is something I learned from Compost PR. Compost PR is a local guy. He teaches so much about just gardening here in the tropics. Really happy to have his source. I'll leave his channel linked above. Lots of good stuff in there. It's all in Spanish, but you can do English subtitles just fine. And if you speak Spanish, then you'll be just fine there too. So what I do is take the cutting, or take like the slip is what you call it with these sweet potatoes. And I just basically fold it in half, so that I have a long slip, fold that in half, and then I bury that little, the root part buried in half, and just leave just a few of the leaves at the top coming out, poking out through. So that's how I manage these guys. And then in between, once I did all that, in between I actually planted beans. So check this out, you can see these beans are starting to grow right here. They're starting to come up all over. So that's really exciting. I actually didn't know if these would take or not. These beans actually came from up at Hacienda Rosa. Rio had grown a crop of beans and he had a whole bunch of dry ones. So I just went and I stole them. I didn't steal them, I got permission, but I went and took some from him because I knew those ones grew already, produced a seed here locally. So that's a good thing for me. That's the kind of seed that I want. And so this produces a cool little small black bean. So pretty good bean, yeah. So, and sweet potatoes and beans tend to go well together. They're good companion plants. So, because the sweet potato is making a root crop, whereas the bean is making a crop above ground. Sweet potato can spread out and move and find sun. The bean's just gonna grow upright. These are bush beans. So they're just gonna grow upright, produce their bean crop, die back. They're also gonna hopefully help me with nitrogen fixation with rhizobium bacteria on the roots. They make little root nodules and are able to take atmospheric nitrogen and put that into the soil in a form that's available to plants. So super cool about nitrogen fixers. Include them all the time, anytime you can in the garden. Potatoes do really well with beans because potatoes tend to need quite a bit of nitrogen, quite a bit of food. And that's the other reason why down that bed I put a lot of compost. I think I put like 5 or 6 5-gallon buckets worth, where in the rest of the beds it was like 2 or 3. So definitely double that. All right, folks, that's it today. I just wanted to do a really quick video here just to try to get one more out before I went on a little vacation. And I did want to show you guys how I'm doing kind of these permanent raised beds full-time back here. Super low maintenance, super easy to maintain long term. If you leave them for a while and you forget about them, it's no big deal. All you have to do is basically reset the bed, take all that weedy growth, add a layer of compost, decompact. You can decompact, then add a layer of compost. It really doesn't matter the order there. And then you just seed right into that, or you transplant right into that. Put some mulch right on top, or you can mulch first and then transplant into the mulch. There's so many varieties, right? There's so many ways to do this, guys. Whatever works for you. If you're direct seeding, I use a scatter mulch, which means you can see down here. I'll do one more shot of that. The scatter mulch, you can see the soil, about 50% of the soil, and the other 50% is mulched, and that allows the babies to basically grow through that scatter mulch and hopefully take over to protect the soil for me. That really only works if you're seeding pretty heavily, so they can get nice abundant growth so you protect the soil really quickly. Hope you did enjoy that. Hopefully that was useful for you. If you have any questions about this system, my permanent no-till raised beds, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer those for you. And I'm gonna try to film a couple of vlogs while I'm out in Seattle area. I have a couple friends who are doing some cool stuff and I like to show you guys, so I'm gonna try to get those done. I probably won't get them posted while I'm traveling. Maybe I'll get them edited and ready to post, but I probably won't get them posted while I'm traveling, so we'll get that when I get home. Hope you all have a good couple of weeks, and till next time, have a good one.